The sun was just beginning to peek over the dusty rooftops of Kumasi, casting a warm golden glow across the bustling streets. The air was thick with the scent of roasted plantain, and the faint hum of early morning traffic, motorbikes weaving through the crowds, hawkers shouting their wares. In a small mud-brick house tucked away in a quiet corner of the town, Ama Serwa stirred awake on a thin, creaky mattress. The sound of a broom sweeping outside told her that her grandmother Isain Saya was already up, tending to their little patch of life. Ama stretched her arms, her joints aching from the long hours she'd spent on her feet the day before. She was 22, with deep brown eyes that held a quiet strength and a smile that could light up even the gloomiest of days. Her skin was a rich cocoa shade, and her hair was neatly braided into cornrows that fell just past her shoulders. She wore a faded wrapper around her waist, the kind that had seen too many washes but still clung to her like a second skin. Pushing open the wooden door of her tiny room, she stepped into the main part of the house, a cramped space with a single table, 2 wobbly stools, and a blackened pot simmering on a coal stove. The aroma of palm oil and spices filled the air as Isain Saya, her grandmother, stirred a pot of groundnut stew. Isai was a small woman, her back slightly hunched from years of labor, her gray hair wrapped in a colorful headscarf. Her hands, though wrinkled, moved with the grace of someone who'd spent a lifetime nurturing. "Ama, come quick, the stew is ready," Isai called out, her voice raspy but warm. "You don't want to be late for work again, eh?" Ama smiled, brushing a stray braid from her face. "It's still early, Nana. Let me help you with the sweeping first." No, put that broom down." Isai waved her off, snatching the broom from Ama's hands with surprising speed. "I'll do it later. Sit and eat, or this stew will go cold. And I didn't wake up at dawn for nothing." Ama laughed softly, giving in. She sat on one of the stools, and soon the two of them were sharing a simple breakfast, groundnut stew with a small piece of yam. It wasn't much, but it was enough to fill their bellies. Life hadn't been easy since Ama's parents passed in a lorry accident 5 years ago. Isai had taken her in, tending to a vegetable garden out back to make ends meet. But the money was never enough. That's why Ama had dropped her dreams of school and taken a job at Cece's Joint, a local fast food spot that served the best jollof rice and fried chicken in Kumasi. After breakfast, Ama slipped into her uniform, a bright orange shirt with Cece's Joint stitched across the chest, and grabbed her worn-out sandals. She kissed Isai's cheek, feeling the warmth of her grandmother's wrinkled skin against her lips. "I'm off, Nana. Pray for me today. Okay?" "Always, my child," Isai replied, her eyes twinkling with pride. "Go make us proud." The walk to Cece's Joint was a sweaty one under the blazing Ghanaian sun. But Ama didn't mind. She loved the chaos of the streets, the women balancing baskets of yams on their heads, the kids chasing after a deflated football, the blaring horns of Tiarotros. By the time she arrived, the place was already buzzing. Customers lined up at the counter, shouting orders over the sizzle of frying chicken and the clatter of pots. Ama tied an apron around her waist and jumped into the fray, taking orders with a smile. But the lightness in her heart faded the moment Ya Bokai, the manager, stormed over. Ya was a tall, sharp-tongued woman with a permanent scowl etched into her face. Her skin was a deep ebony, and she always wore her hair in a tight bun, as if to match her no-nonsense attitude. Today, she was in a mood worse than usual. "Ama, you're late again," Ya barked, hands on her hips, even though Ama had arrived 10 minutes early. "But Madam Ya, my shift doesn't start yet," Ama said calmly, adjusting her apron. "Don't talk back to me," Ya snapped, pointing at the growing line of customers. "Look at that crowd. Every second counts here, and you're wasting my time. Get to work." "Yes, madam," Ama replied softly, swallowing her frustration. She hurried to the counter, forcing a smile as she greeted her first customer, a little boy in a school uniform clutching a crumpled Sadie note. "Good morning, small man. What can I get you?" she asked, her voice bright. "1 jollof rice, please," he mumbled, shyly sliding the money across the counter. "Coming right up," Ama said, punching the order into the register. She kept her head down, ignoring Ya's glare burning into her back. The day dragged on, hot and hectic, until noon brought a rare moment of quiet. Ama was wiping down the counter when she glanced out the window. There, sitting on the dusty pavement outside, was an old man. His clothes were tattered, a faded shirt hanging off his bony frame, trousers torn at the knees. His gray beard was patchy, and his eyes were fixed on the people eating inside, a quiet hunger in his gaze. Amma's heart twisted. She thought of Esi, how she'd hate to see her grandmother in such a state. Before she could think twice, Yas's voice cut through the air like a whip. "Amma, stop daydreaming and get back to work," Yas shouted, slamming a tray of chicken wings onto the counter. "Yes, madam," Amma muttered, tearing her eyes away from the old man. But his face stayed with her, haunting her through every order she took. When her break finally came, Amma couldn't hold back any longer. She grabbed a few sadies from her pocket, money she'd been saving for a new pair of sandals, and slipped to the counter. "1 jollof rice and a Coke, please," she told her coworker, keeping her voice low. "Who's that for?" Ya demanded, appearing out of nowhere, her eyes narrowing. "For me, madam," Amma lied quickly. "I'm still hungry." Ya huffed but said nothing more. Amma took the food and stepped outside, the heat hitting her like a wall. Up close, the old man looked even frilier, his hands trembling as he glanced up at her. "Good afternoon, Papa," Amma said gently, crouching down. "Are you okay?" The old man nodded, his voice a whisper. "Good afternoon, my daughter. I haven't eaten in days." Amma's throat tightened. "Here, this is for you," she said, handing him the jollof rice and Coke. "It's not much, but it's all I can afford." His eyes widened, glistening with tears. "For me? Are you sure?" "Yes, Papa," Amma said, her hands shaking slightly. "Please eat." The old man took the food, his fingers fumbling with the wrapper. "Thank you, my child. You don't know what this means to me." He took a bite, and Amma watched as a small smile broke across his weathered face. "Why are you so kind?" he asked between mouthfuls. Amma shrugged, blinking back tears. "It's nothing, Papa. I couldn't let you go hungry." He looked at her, his gaze piercing. "Your kindness will come back to you, mark my words. Not today, maybe, but soon." Amma smiled, standing up. "I'm just happy to see you eat, Papa. Take care." As she turned to head back inside, she felt a lightness in her chest, a quiet joy that stayed with her even as Yas's sharp voice greeted her return. "Where have you been, Amma? Your break's over." Yas snapped. "Sorry, madam. I just stepped out for air," Amma said, her voice steady. Ya rolled her eyes and stormed off. But Amma didn't care. She'd done something right, something good. And that was enough. The sun climbed higher over Kumasi, turning the air into a thick, sticky heat that clung to Amma Surwa's skin as she worked behind the counter at Cece's joint. The lunchtime rush had hit like a storm, customers shouting orders, the hiss of frying chicken filling the air, and the spicy tang of jollof rice wafting from the kitchen. Amma's orange uniform was damp with sweat, her cornrows sticking to her forehead, but she kept moving, her hands swift as she scooped rice into takeaway boxes and flashed smiles at the endless line of faces. "2 jollof with chicken, quick!" A man in a faded suit barked, tapping his foot impatiently. "Right away, sir," Amma replied, her voice steady despite the ache creeping up her legs. She loved this job, the bustle, the chatter, the chance to bring a little joy with every plate she served. It wasn't much, but it kept her and Esi and Saya afloat, and that was worth every blister on her feet. But not everyone shared her enthusiasm. Yabokai, the manager, loomed like a dark cloud over the busy scene. Her sharp eyes darted from the counter to the kitchen, missing nothing. Amma felt the weight of Yas's gaze every time she so much as paused to catch her breath. Today, that weight felt heavier than ever. "Amma!" Yas's voice cut through the noise like a machete, sharp and unforgiving. She stormed over, her tight bun gleaming under the fluorescent lights, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Why are you so slow? Look at this line. You think people have all day to wait for you?" Amma froze mid-scoop, a spoonful of jollof hovering over a box. Her heart sank, but she forced her face to stay calm. "Sorry, Madam Ya. I'm trying my best." "Your best isn't good enough." Ya snapped, snatching the scoop from Amma's hand and slamming it back into the pot. The sound made a few customers glance over, and Amma's cheeks burned with embarrassment. "If you can't keep up, maybe you shouldn't be here. Hurry up." "Yes, madam," Amma murmured, her voice barely audible over the hum of the restaurant. She swallowed the lump in her throat and turned back to the customer, offering him a shaky smile. "Here's your order, sir, enjoy." The man grunted, grabbed his food, and left without a word. Amma took a deep breath, steadying herself. She wouldn't let Ya break her, not today, not ever. She thought of Saya waiting at home, counting on her, and that was enough to keep her going. But Ya wasn't done. An hour later, as the rush finally slowed, she called Amma over to the back of the restaurant, where sacks of rice were stacked against the wall. "You carry these to the storeroom," Ya ordered, pointing at 3 heavy bags, each one nearly as big as Amma herself. Amma blinked, her arms already trembling from hours of work. "But, madam, isn't that for the boys in the kitchen?" Ya's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping to a dangerous hiss. "Are you questioning me? I said you can handle it, so do it. Now." Amma bit her lip, nodding quickly. "Yes, madam." She bent down, wrapping her arms around the first sack. It was rough and heavy, digging into her skin as she hoisted it onto her shoulder. Her back screamed in protest, but she gritted her teeth and staggered toward the storeroom, determined not to give Ya the satisfaction of seeing her falter. By the time she'd moved all 3 sacks, her uniform was streaked with dust, and her hands were raw. She leaned against the wall, catching her breath, when Ya's voice rang out again, this time in front of the other workers. "Amma, you're too slow. This isn't a place for lazy girls like you." The words stung like a slap, especially with her co-workers watching, some smirking, others averting their eyes. Amma wanted to shout back, to tell Ya she'd been working non-stop, that she'd carried those sacks without complaint. But she held her tongue, picturing Saya's gentle face instead. "I'll do better, madam," she said softly, forcing a smile. Ya rolled her eyes and walked off, leaving Amma standing there, her chest tight with a mix of anger and exhaustion. She didn't understand why Ya hated her so much. Was it her quiet nature? Her refusal to argue? Whatever it was, Amma wouldn't let it dim her spirit. She whispered to herself, "God sees everything. I'll be fine." When her shift finally ended, the sun was dipping low, painting the sky in hues of pink and purple. Amma chose to walk home, her sandals slapping against the dusty road. It was a long trek, but she couldn't bear to spend her last sadies on a tiro. Not when ESI might need medicine or extra yam for the week. The ache in her legs was a small price to pay. She pushed open the door of their little house and found Saya bent over a pile of old cloths, sewing them into rags to sell at the market. The old woman looked up, her eyes crinkling with worry at the sight of Amma's tired face. "My child, you look like you've carried the world today. What happened?" Amma dropped onto a stool, kicking off her sandals with a sigh. "I walked home, Nana. It's good exercise, eh?" She flashed a grin, trying to lighten the mood. "Sighed sked," setting her needle down. "Exercise? You should have taken a ride. That's too far, Amma. And work, how was it? Did that woman trouble you again?" Amma hesitated, then nodded. "She was tough today, Nana. Made me carry rice sacks and shouted at me in front of everyone. But it's okay. I think maybe she's just having a hard time herself." Asai's brow furrowed, her hands clenching the cloth. "Hard time or not, she has no right to treat you like that. You work too hard for her nonsense. I should march down there and give her a piece of my mind." Amma laughed, reaching for Esai's hand. "Oh, Nana, please don't. I can handle it. This job keeps us going, and I'm happy to do it. Besides, she can't take away what's in here." She tapped her chest, her smile softening. Esai shook her head, but a proud glint shone in her eyes. "You're too good, Amma. Too patient. The world doesn't deserve you sometimes." "It's not about the world, Nana," Amma said, her voice quiet but firm. "It's about us. As long as I've got you, I can face anything." Esai reached out, stroking Amma's cheek with a trembling hand. "And you're my strength, child. Don't you ever forget that." Amma leaned into the touch, feeling a warmth spread through her despite the day's trials. She thought of the old man she'd fed, his grateful smile, and it lifted her spirit. Maybe Ya could yell all she wanted, but Amma knew she was more than her manager's harsh words. She had a heart that refused to harden, a hope that refused to fade. And as the crickets began their nightly song outside, she closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer for better days ahead. The next morning dawned heavy over Kumasi, the sky a dull gray that seemed to press down on the earth like a warning. Amma Surwa woke to the faint patter of rain against the tin roof, a sound that usually soothed her but today felt like a drumbeat of unease. She lay still for a moment, her body stiff from yesterday's labor, her mind replaying Yabokai's harsh words and the weight of those rice sacks digging into her shoulders. But beneath the ache, there was something else, a flicker of warmth from the memory of the old man's grateful eyes. The way he'd clutched that jollof rice like it was life itself, that flicker kept her going. She rose from the mattress, the creak of the springs loud in the quiet house. Yasin Saya was already up, her silhouette bent over the coal stove, stirring a pot of porridge. The air smelled of millet and a hint of burnt wood, a familiar comfort that tugged at Amma's heart. She pulled on her orange Sisi's joint uniform, the fabric stiff and slightly damp from yesterday's sweat, and tied her cornrows back with a worn-out scarf. "Good morning, Nana," she said, stepping into the main room. Her voice was soft, but it carried a thread of determination she didn't fully recognize. Yesai turned, her weathered face creasing into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Morning, my child. You're up early. Did you sleep at all with that storm in your head?" Amma chuckled, though it sounded hollow even to her. "I slept enough, Nana. Don't worry about me." Yesai set the wooden spoon down, her hands trembling slightly as she wiped them on her faded wrapper. "How can I not worry? You come home looking like a ghost every day, Amma. That woman, she's draining you dry." Amma crossed the room and squeezed Yesai's shoulder, feeling the fragile bones beneath her fingers. "I'm stronger than I look, Nana, and today's a new day. Maybe it'll be better." Yesai's lips pursed, but she didn't argue. She handed Amma a bowl of porridge, the steam rising in thin wisps. "Eat quick, then. You need strength for whatever that which throws at you." Amma ate in silence, the warm mush sliding down her throat, grounding her. She thought of the old man again, wondering where he was now, if he'd found shelter from the rain. She didn't regret giving him that food, not one bit, but the thought of catching her gnawed at her like a rat in the shadows. She pushed it aside, kissed Yesai's cheek, and stepped out into the drizzle. The walk to Sisi's joint was a soggy blur, the streets slick with mud and the air heavy with the scent of wet earth. Amma's sandals squelched with every step, and by the time she arrived, her uniform clung to her like a second skin. She shook off the rain and slipped inside, the familiar chaos of the restaurant hitting her like a wave, customers shouting, pots clanging, the fryer hissing like an angry snake. She barely had time to tie her apron before Yas's voice sliced through the din. "Amma, you're dripping all over my floor. Can't you even come to work looking decent?" Amma's stomach clenched, but she forced a smile, wiping her hands on her apron. "Sorry, Madam it's the rain. I'll dry off quick." Yas's eyes narrowed, her arms crossing over her chest. "Excuses, always excuses. Get to the counter now." "Yes, madam," Amma said, hurrying to her post. Her heart pounded, a drumbeat of dread she couldn't shake. Was in a foul mood, worse than yesterday, and Amma felt it in her bones. This day wouldn't end well. The hours blurred into a frantic dance of orders and insults. "Faster, Amma," barked as Amma scooped jollof rice. "You're useless," she snapped when a customer complained about a cold chicken wing. Amma bit her tongue, her hands trembling as she worked, her smile a fragile mask. She wanted to scream, to throw the scoop down and walk out, but the thought of Yesai's worried eyes kept her rooted. Then, in a rare lull, she saw him again, the old man. He was back, sitting outside under the awning, his tattered shirt soaked through, his bony frame shivering in the damp air. His eyes met hers through the glass, and Amma's breath caught. He wasn't begging, wasn't asking, just watching, a silent plea in his gaze that tore at her soul. She didn't think. She couldn't. Her break was minutes away, and when it came, she grabbed her few sadies, money meant for a Tiratero ride home, and slipped to the counter. "One jollof rice, small portion," she whispered to her coworker. Kweku, a lanky boy with a quick grin. "For you?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," she lied, her voice tight. She felt Yas's presence lurking somewhere, a predator waiting to pounce, but she didn't care. Not now. She took the food and stepped outside, the rain stinging her face as she crouched beside the old man. "Papa, it's you again," she said, her voice breaking. "You're soaked. Here, eat this." His hands shook as he took the foil container, his eyes glistening with something deeper than hunger. "You again, my daughter? Why do you keep doing this?" Amma's throat tightened, tears prickling her eyes. "Because I can't look away, Papa. Not when you're like this. It's not right." He unwrapped the food, the steam rising into the cold air, and took a bite. God bless you, he whispered, his voice trembling. You're an angel in this hard world. Amma shook her head, blinking back the tears. I'm no angel, Papa. Just a girl who knows what hunger feels like. Eat well, okay? She stood, her chest aching with a mix of joy and fear, and turned back to the restaurant. That's when she saw her, standing at the door, her face a mask of fury. Amma Surwa. Ya's voice was a thunderclap, loud enough to make the old man flinch. What do you think you're doing? Amma froze, the rain dripping down her face, her heart slamming against her ribs. Madam, don't you dare lie to me. Ya stormed forward, her heels clicking against the wet pavement. I saw you, giving food to that filthy beggar. You think this is a charity? Amma's mouth went dry, her hands clenching at her sides. I used my own money, madam. I didn't take anything from the shop. Ya laughed, a harsh, jagged sound that cut deeper than her words. Your money? I don't care whose money it is. You're breaking my rules, encouraging these rats to hang around my restaurant. Do you know what that does to business? But he was hungry, Amma said, her voice rising despite herself. He's old, madam. He could be my grandfather, your grandfather. How can we just let him suffer? Ya's eyes blazed, her finger jabbing at Amma's chest. Don't you dare lecture me, you little fool. This is my place, my rules. You don't get to play savior here. Amma stepped back, her breath hitching. I'm sorry, madam. I didn't mean to. Shut up. Ya snapped, her voice echoing in the empty street. You're done, Amma. Finished. Pack your things and get out. I don't need a bleeding heart like you ruining my business. The words hit like a punch, stealing the air from Amma's lungs. She stood there, rain soaking through her uniform, her mind reeling. Madam, please, she whispered, her voice cracking. I need this job. My grandmother, she depends on me. I won't do it again, I swear. Ya's lip curled, her eyes cold as stone. You should have thought of that before you disobeyed me. Get out now, and don't come crawling back. Amma's knees buckled, but she caught herself, her hands trembling as she untied her apron. The old man watched from the pavement, his food forgotten, his eyes wide with guilt. My daughter, he began, but Amma shook her head. It's not your fault, Papa, she said, forcing a smile through the tears welling up. Eat your food. Be well. She turned and walked back inside, her footsteps heavy, the weight of Ya's words crushing her chest. Her co-workers stared as she grabbed her bag from the locker, their whispers buzzing like flies. Kweku stepped forward, his face tight with worry. Amma, is it true? She sacked you? Amma nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She pulled off her uniform, folding it neatly despite the shaking in her hands, and slipped into her damp wrapper. Take care, Kweku, she managed, her voice a ghost of itself. She stepped back into the rain, the door of Cece's joint slamming shut behind her like a coffin lid. The streets stretched out before her, blurred by tears and water, and for a moment, she couldn't move. Her mind screamed, what now? How will we eat? What will I tell Nana? The questions clawed at her, sharp and relentless, but she pushed them down, deep into the pit of her stomach. She looked up at the gray sky, rain streaming down her face, mingling with the tears she could no longer hold back. God, you see me, don't you? She whispered, her voice trembling but fierce. You know I did right. Please, show me a way. The old man was gone when she glanced back, leaving only an empty foil container in the mud. Amma clutched her bag tighter, her sandals sinking into the wet earth, and started the long walk home. Her heart was a storm, fear, anger, sorrow swirling together, but beneath it, that flicker of warmth remained. She'd fed a hungry soul, and no one, not even Ya, could take that from her. She'd lost everything today, but she hadn't lost herself. Not yet. As the rain pounded harder, she straightened her shoulders, her steps growing firmer. She didn't know what tomorrow held, but she knew one thing. She'd face it with the same heart that had gotten her this far. And somehow that was enough. The rain had softened to a gentle drizzle by the time Amma Surwa reached the edge of Kumasi's bustling heart, her sandals heavy with mud and her wrapper clinging to her legs like a mournful embrace. The streets were alive despite the weather, hawkers calling out under makeshift shelters, children splashing in puddles, the distant hum of a high-life tune drifting from a radio somewhere. But to Amma, it all felt distant, muted, as if the world had slipped behind a thick curtain of gray. Her chest ached with every step, a hollow pang that wasn't just from the cold seeping into her bones. She'd lost her job. The words echoed in her mind, sharp and unforgiving, each one a stone sinking into the pit of her stomach. She stopped by the roadside, her bag slung over her shoulder, and let the drizzle wash over her face. Her tears had dried somewhere along the way, leaving only a quiet numbness in their wake. She could still hear Yabokai's voice, "You're done, Amma." Finished. Cutting through her like a blade. And worse, she could see Esai and Saya's face in her mind. Those gentle eyes that would widen with worry when Amma broke the news. How would she explain this? How would they survive without the sadies she brought home each week? The questions swirled, dark and heavy, threatening to pull her under. But then, unbidden, came the image of the old man. His trembling hands, the gratitude in his weathered gaze as he ate the jollof rice she'd given him. Amma's lips curved into a faint smile, a fragile thread of light piercing the gloom. She'd done something good, something right, and that couldn't be erased, not by Yas' anger or the loss of her job. It was a small spark, but it was hers, and she clung to it like a lifeline. She took a deep breath, the damp air filling her lungs, and whispered to herself, "I'll find a way. For Nana. For us." The words were soft, carried away by the breeze, but they settled in her heart, steadying her. She straightened her shoulders and resumed her walk, her steps slow but purposeful, the mud sucking at her sandals with every stride. When she reached their little mud brick house, the sight of it brought a lump to her throat. The tin roof glistened under the fading rain, the vegetable garden out back a patchwork of green against the brown earth. It wasn't much, a single room with cracked walls, a sagging door, a life patched together with love and grit, but it was home. Amma paused at the threshold, her hand resting on the rough wood, and braced herself. She couldn't hide this from Esai, not her Nana who could read her like an open book. The door creaked as she stepped inside, and Esai and Saya looked up from the stool where she sat, mending a torn headscarf with a needle and thread. The coal stove was cold now, the air thick with the lingering scent of porridge. Esai's eyes narrowed at once, her hands stilling mid-stitch. "Amma, you're back so early. What's wrong, child? You look like the rains washed your soul away." Amma set her bag down, her fingers trembling as she untied her scarf. She wanted to smile, to brush it off, but the weight in her chest wouldn't let her. "Nana," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something happened at work." Esai's face tightened, her needle dropping into her lap. "What did that do this time? Tell me, Amma. I won't let her hurt you again." Amma sank onto the second stool, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "She fired me, Nana," she said, the words spilling out like stones into still water. "She saw me give food to an old man outside the shop yesterday. Said it was against her rules. I tried to explain, begged her to let me stay, but she wouldn't listen." Esai's breath hitched, her hands flying to her mouth. "Fired you? For helping someone? That woman, she's got no heart, no shame. How dare she?" Amma reached out, catching Esai's trembling hands in hers. "Nana, don't get angry, please. Your heart, I don't want you sick over this." "Sick?" Esai's voice rose, sharp with indignation. "I'm not the one who should be sick. It's that she throws you out like trash after all you've done? We should go to her, Amma. Make her see sense." Amma shook her head, squeezing Esai's hands gently. "No, Nana, I don't want trouble. What's done is done. I don't regret helping that old man. He was starving, and I couldn't turn away. Maybe this is part of something bigger, something God's planned for us." Esai stared at her, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Oh, my child," she murmured, her voice softening. "You've got a heart too big for this cruel world. But what now? How will we manage? The garden barely feeds us." Amma swallowed hard, forcing a smile despite the fear clawing at her insides. "I'll find another job, Nana. I've still got my last pay coming. It'll tide us over. We've made it through worse, haven't we? When Papa and Mama died, you didn't give up on me. I won't give up on us now." Esai's shoulders sagged, but a flicker of pride lit her gaze. "You're stubborn, just like your mother," she said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Always seeing the sun behind the clouds." Amma leaned forward, resting her forehead against Esai's. "Because you taught me to, Nana. We'll be okay." I promise. The room fell silent, save for the soft drip of rain outside and the steady rhythm of their breathing. Amma felt Isai's warmth against her, a quiet anchor in the storm of her thoughts. She didn't know how she'd keep that promise. Not yet. But the hope in her heart was growing, a tender shoot pushing through the cracks of despair. She thought of the old man's words, "Your kindness will come back to you," and let them wrap around her like a shawl. That night, as she lay on her mattress listening to Isai's gentle snores, Amma's mind raced. She pictured herself walking the streets tomorrow, knocking on doors, offering her hands and her heart to anyone who'd take her. It wouldn't be easy. Kumasi wasn't kind to girls like her, with no school papers or fancy words to sell herself. But she'd faced hard days before, and she'd face them again. She closed her eyes, her lips moving in a silent prayer. God, you've carried us this far. Don't leave us now. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and the earth soft underfoot. Amma rose early, her body still weary but her spirit lighter. She slipped into a faded dress, her best one, with a pattern of yellow flowers, and packed a small bag with her last loaf of bread and a bottle of water. She kissed Isai's cheek as her grandmother stirred awake, whispering, "I'm going job hunting, Nana. I'll be back with good news." Isai's hand caught hers, squeezing tight. "Be careful, child, and don't let the world steal that light in you." "Never, Nana," Amma said, her smile bright and genuine this time. She stepped outside, the sun breaking through the clouds, casting golden rays across the muddy streets. It felt like a sign, a promise woven into the morning light. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew she'd meet it with her head high and her heart open. Hope was her compass now, and she'd follow it wherever it led. The streets of Kumasi shimmered under the morning sun, the puddles from yesterday's rain reflecting a sky so blue it seemed to mock Amma Surwa's weary heart. She walked with her small bag slung over her shoulder, the faded yellow flowers on her dress catching the light as she moved. Her sandals, worn thin from months of trudging, slapped against the damp earth, a steady rhythm that matched the quiet resolve in her chest. Job hunting day, she told Saya, and she meant it. Every step carried her forward, fueled by the promise she'd made to her grandmother and the hope she'd nursed through a restless night. The air buzzed with life, market women arranging piles of tomatoes and okra, motorbikes weaving through the crowds, the sharp scent of smoked fish mingling with the sweetness of ripe mangoes. Amma's stomach growled as she passed a stall selling wache, the aroma of rice and beans tugging at her senses, but she tightened her grip on her bag. The loaf of bread and water inside were all she had for the day. Her last sadies were reserved for a Tiraturo ride home if luck turned her way. She stopped at a small shop first, a cramped place with a sign reading, "Help Wanted" in peeling paint. The owner, a stout woman with a stern face, barely glanced at her before waving her off. "No school certificate? No chance, girl. Try somewhere else." Amma nodded, her throat tight, and moved on. At a roadside eatery, a man with a graying beard took her name but muttered, "We'll call if something opens up," his tone flat and unpromising. By midday, her feet ached, her dress clung to her sweat-damp skin, and her hope felt like a candle flickering in a storm. She sat on a wooden bench near the market square, unwrapping her bread with trembling hands. The crust was stale, but she chewed slowly, savoring each bite, her eyes scanning the crowd for any hint of opportunity. "God, I'm trying," she whispered, her voice lost in the chatter around her. "Just one door, open one door for me." The prayer hung in the air, fragile but fierce, as she brushed crumbs from her lap and stood to keep going. She was halfway to the next stop, a tailoring shop she'd heard needed a cleaner, when a shadow fell across her path. She looked up, blinking against the sun, and froze. There, standing before her little mud brick house, was a figure she hadn't expected to see again. The old man. But this wasn't the shivering, tattered soul she'd fed outside Cece's joint. His clothes were crisp now, a white kaftan that gleamed in the light, black trousers pressed sharp, and leather shoes that shone like polished ebony. His gray beard was neatly trimmed, framing a face that radiated quiet authority. Amma's breath caught, her bag slipping slightly in her grip. "Good morning, my daughter," he said, his voice deep and steady, carrying a warmth that sent a shiver down her spine. Amma's mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. She clutched her bag tighter, her heart hammering as recognition flooded her. "Papa?" she stammered, her eyes wide. "Is it Is it really you? He smiled, a slow, knowing curve of his lips that made her knees weak. Yes, it's me. But let me introduce myself properly this time. I am Teta Lardy, owner of Cece's Joint, all of them, across Ghana and beyond. The words hit her like a thunderbolt, sharp and electric, jolting her from her stupor. She staggered back a step, her hand flying to her chest. Owner, she whispered, her voice trembling. You're the boss? But you were. A beggar, yes, Teta finished, his eyes twinkling with something she couldn't name. I wanted to see the hearts of my people, the ones who serve my food, who wear my name on their chests. And you, Ama Surwa, you were the only one who looked at me and saw more than rags. Ama's head spun, her thoughts a whirlwind of disbelief and wonder. She stared at him, at the man who'd eaten her jollof rice with shaking hands, now standing before her like a king. I don't understand, she said, her voice barely audible. Why me? I just gave you food. Teta stepped closer, his gaze piercing yet gentle. Because you gave when you had so little to give. That's not just kindness, Ama, it's courage. And I've come to return it to you. Her breath hitched, a sudden tightness gripping her chest. Return it? What do you mean, Papa? I mean, Mr. Lardy. He chuckled, a rich sound that eased the tension coiling in her gut. May we sit inside? I have something to offer you, something big. Ama nodded numbly, her legs moving on instinct as she led him to the door. Her hands shook as she pushed it open, her mind racing with questions she didn't dare voice. Essine Saya looked up from her sewing, her needle pausing mid-air, her eyes narrowing at the stranger in their home. Nana, this is Mr. Teta Lardy, Ama said, her voice faltering. He's the owner of Cece's Joint. Essai's jaw dropped, the headscarf slipping from her lap. Owner? What's he doing here, Ama? Teta bowed slightly, his hands clasped respectfully. Good morning, Mame. I'm here because your granddaughter changed my heart with a single act of kindness. And now, I want to change her life. Ama's knees buckled, and she sank onto a stool, her hands trembling in her lap. Teta sat across from her, his presence filling the tiny room with a weight she couldn't fathom. I know Yabokai fired you, he said, his tone softening. I heard it all, how you fed me, how she punished you for it. That's not the way my business should run. So here's my offer, Ama. I want you to manage one of my branches in Accra, a big one, and I'm giving you a house there, a 2-story home for you and your grandmother. The room spun, the air thick with the shock of his words. Ama's mouth fell open, a gasp escaping before she could stop it. Manage? She croaked. A house? Mr. Lardy, I don't know how to manage anything. I didn't even finish school. Teta leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers. You don't need a certificate to lead, Ama. You've got a heart that sees people, that lifts them up. That's worth more than any paper. I believe in you more than you believe in yourself right now. Tears welled in her eyes, hot and sudden, spilling down her cheeks. She looked at ESI, whose hands were pressed to her face, her own tears glistening. Nana, Ama whispered, her voice breaking. Is this real? SI reached for her, pulling her into a fierce embrace. It's real, child. Oh, God is good. I told you, goodness comes back. Ama buried her face in SI's shoulder, her sobs shaking her frame. She felt the weight of the day, the rejections, the hunger, the fear, melt away, replaced by a joy so bright it dazzled her. I don't know if I can do it, she murmured, her voice muffled against SI's wrapper. You can, Teta said firmly, standing now. Take your time to think, Ama. Here's my card. Call me when you're ready. But know this isn't charity. It's a chance you've earned. He handed her a crisp business card, the edges sharp against her trembling fingers, and with a final nod, he stepped back into the sunlight. Ama clutched the card, staring at it as if it might vanish. A manager, a house, Accra. The words danced in her mind, wild and impossible. Yet there they were, real as the tears on her face, as the hope blooming in her heart. She looked at ESI, her grandmother's smile a mirror of her own, and whispered, maybe the sun's finally breaking through, Nana, and in that moment she believed it. The morning sun blazed over Kumasi, its golden rays slicing through the haze as Ama Surwa stood before her little mud-brick house, clutching Teta Lardy's business card in her trembling hand. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and the hum of a waking town. But inside her, a storm raged, hope clashing with fear, disbelief warring with possibility. A manager, a house in Accra. The words spun in her mind like a high-life beat, fast and unrelenting, each one pulling her toward a future she could barely grasp. Yesine Saya emerged from the doorway, her faded wrapper swaying as she shuffled toward Amma, her eyes still glistening from the tears they'd shared the night before. "Have you decided, child?" she asked, her voice soft but edged with urgency. "That man, he's offering you the world." Amma's fingers tightened around the card, the sharp edges digging into her palm. "I want to say yes, Nana," she admitted, her voice quivering. "But what if I fail? What if I can't do it? I'm no manager. I'm just me." Asai's hand found hers, warm and steady, grounding her in the chaos of her thoughts. "You're more than you know, Amma. That man saw it, the goodness in you, the strength. And I see it too. Don't let fear steal this from you." Amma's throat tightened, a lump rising as she met Asai's gaze. Those eyes, wrinkled, wise, unwavering, held a faith she couldn't deny. She took a shaky breath, nodding slowly. "Okay, Nana, I'll do it. For us." Asai's face broke into a grin, her hands clasping Amma's cheeks. "That's my girl. Call him now. Don't let the sun set on this chance." Amma pulled out her battered phone, her fingers fumbling as she dialed the number on the card. Each ring echoed in her chest like a drumbeat, loud and insistent, until Teda's deep voice answered, calm as a river. "Amma, I hoped you'd call." "Mr. Lardy," she began, her voice cracking. I'll take the job. The house, everything. I don't know how to thank you." His chuckle was warm, cutting through her nerves. "No thanks needed, Amma. You've earned this. Pack your things, I'll send a van tomorrow morning. Your new life starts now." The call ended, and Amma stood there, the phone slipping from her hand as tears welled anew. Tomorrow. It was happening too fast, too real. She turned to ESI, who pulled her into a fierce embrace, whispering, "God's hand is on you, child. I always knew." The next day dawned with a flurry of motion. A white van rolled up to their house, dust swirling around its tires, and a driver in a crisp uniform helped load their meager belongings. 2 worn suitcases, a basket of Isai's sewing, a few pots from the kitchen. Amma watched, her heart pounding, as the life she'd known was packed away. She hugged the doorframe one last time, the rough would cool against her cheek, then climbed into the van beside ESI, her grandmother's hand tight in hers. The journey to Accra was a blur of green fields and bustling towns, the road stretching out like a promise. 5 hours later, the van turned into a quiet suburb, the noise of the city fading into birdsong and the rustle of trees. It stopped before a house, a 2-story marvel of white walls and glass windows, a garden bursting with hibiscus and roses. Amma's breath caught, her hand flying to her mouth as she stepped out, her sandals sinking into soft grass. "Nana," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Is this ours?" Esai's eyes widened, her fingers clutching Amma's arm. "Amma, it's like a palace. Are you sure we're not dreaming?" Before Amma could answer, Teda Lardy emerged from the house, his kaftan gleaming in the sunlight, a sheaf of papers in his hand. "Welcome, Amma, Mame," he said, his smile broad. "This is yours, title and all. A reward for your heart." Amma took the envelope he offered, her hands shaking as she opened it. The deed bore her name in bold letters, Amma Surwa, owner. Tears spilled down her cheeks, hot and unstoppable, as she hugged Teda, her words lost in sobs. "Thank you, Sarai. I don't deserve this." "You do," he said firmly, patting her shoulder. "Tomorrow you start at the Accra branch. Get some rest, you'll need it." That night, Amma lay on a soft bed in their new home, the ceiling fan humming above her, ESI snoring softly in the next room. The room was vast, the walls clean and white, a far cry from the cracked mud of Kumasi. But sleep eluded her, her mind racing with anticipation and dread. What if she couldn't manage? What if she let Teda down? The questions gnawed at her, sharp and relentless, until exhaustion finally claimed her. The next morning, she arrived at the Accra branch of Cece's joint, her new uniform, a crisp blue blouse and skirt, feeling foreign against her skin. The restaurant was bigger than Kumasi's, its counters gleaming, the air thick with the scent of frying plantain and spicy stew. Teta greeted her at the door, his presence steadying her nerves. "Ready?" he asked, his eyes kind but probing. Amma nodded, though her stomach churned. "Yes, sir, I'll try." He clapped his hands, summoning the staff to the kitchen. "Everyone, meet your new manager, Amma Surwa," he announced, his voice ringing out. The crew applauded, a wave of smiles and curious glances. But then Amma's heart stopped. There, at the edge of the group, stood Ya Bokai. Ya's face was a mask of shock, her eyes wide, her uniform, now a simple crew shirt, hanging loose on her frame. Amma's knees buckled, a gasp escaping her lips. "Ya here?" Under her command? The room spun, the applause fading into a dull roar as their gazes locked, a silent storm brewing between them. Teta's voice cut through the haze. "Amma, anything to say?" She tore her eyes from Ya, forcing a smile that felt like glass. I'll do my best to lead us well," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "We're a team now. Let's make this place shine." The crew dispersed, but Ya lingered, her jaw tight, her fists clenched. Amma's heart raced, a cold sweat prickling her skin as Ya approached, her steps slow and deliberate. "So," Ya hissed, her voice low and venomous. "This is your game, eh? You think you can waltz in here and lord over me?" Amma's breath hitched, her hands trembling at her sides. "Yeah, I didn't ask for this, Mr. Lardy." "Don't lie," Ya snapped, her eyes blazing. "You used him, didn't you? Played the sweet little girl to steal my place. I was a manager, Amma, years of work, and now I'm scrubbing counters because of you." The words stung, sharp and jagged, slicing through Amma's fragile confidence. She stepped back, her chest tight, her mind reeling. "That's not true," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you. He chose me because I helped him." Ya laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that echoed in the empty kitchen. "Helped him? You mean that beggar stunt? Don't make me laugh. You're nothing, Amma, no school, no skills. You'll crash and burn here, and I'll be watching." Amma's tears welled, hot and sudden. But before she could respond, Teta's voice boomed from the doorway. "Enough, Ya!" He strode in, his face thunderous, his kaftan billowing. "I heard every word. You dare disrespect her after what she's done." Ya paled, her bravado crumbling. "Sir, Silence." Teta's eyes flashed, his voice a whip. "Amma earned this with her heart, something you've forgotten. She fed me when I tested my staff, disguised as a beggar. You walked past me every day. I demoted you for your pride, not her actions." Ya's mouth opened, then closed, her hands trembling. Amma's heart pounded, torn between the sting of Ya's words and the weight of Teta's defense. She wanted to speak, to ease the tension, but her voice caught, trapped in her throat. Teta turned to her, his gaze softening. "Amma, should I fire her?" "Your call." The question hit her like a blow, her knees nearly giving way. "Fire Ya? The woman who'd tormented her, who'd stripped her of her old life." She looked at Ya, pale, shaking, a shadow of the tyrant she'd known, and something shifted inside her. Pity, sharp and unexpected, pierced her anger. "No, sir," she said, her voice steadying. "Don't fire her. She's good at her work. I believe she can change." Ya's eyes widened, shock replacing the venom. Teta nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You heard her, Ya. Thank her mercy, and don't test it again." Ya muttered a grudging, "Thank you," her voice barely audible. Before turning away, Amma exhaled, her body trembling as the tension drained from her. She'd faced her past and chosen grace over vengeance, a choice that left her raw but lighter. That night, as she walked home through Accra's quiet streets, the stars above seemed brighter, the air cooler against her skin. She'd survived her first day, faced Ya's fury, and held her ground. But peace eluded her, her mind replaying the confrontation, Ya's words clawing at her doubts. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her until a figure blocked her path, a shadow in the dim streetlight. She gasped, stepping back, her heart leaping to her throat. It was Ya, her face twisted with rage, her fists clenched. "You think you've won?" Ya spat, her voice a hiss. "You saved me today, but I'll ruin you, Amma. I'll make sure you fall." Before Amma could respond, a scream pierced the night, not hers, but Ya's. A man emerged from the shadows, his face masked, a glinting knife in his hand. "Money! Now!" he barked, grabbing Yas's arm. Amma's blood ran cold, her body freezing as Yas struggled, her cries sharp and desperate. The knife flashed, inches from Yas's throat, and time slowed, the world narrowing to this moment. Fear screamed in Amma's mind. Run, hide. But her feet wouldn't move. She saw Yasai's face, Teta's trust, and something snapped inside her. She lunged, grabbing a broken plank from the roadside, her hands slick with sweat. "Leave her!" she shouted, her voice raw, swinging the wood at the man's arm. It connected with a sickening crack, the knife clattering to the ground. He cursed, staggering back, his eyes wide with shock. Amma scooped up the knife, her hands shaking as she pointed it at him. "Go! Now!" she yelled, her voice a roar she didn't recognize. The man bolted, disappearing into the dark, and Amma dropped the knife, her knees buckling. Yas sank to the ground, sobbing, her bravado shattered. Amma crawled to her, her own breath ragged, and pulled her into a trembling embrace. "You're safe," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're safe." Ya clung to her, tears soaking Amma's dress. "Why?" she choked out. "After everything, I don't deserve this." Amma's heart ached, a flood of relief and exhaustion washing over her. "Because I can't hate you, yeah? I just can't." The night stretched around them, silent now save for their ragged breaths. And in that moment, something shifted. A crack in the wall between them, fragile but real. Amma didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but as she held Ya, she felt it. A spark of something new, something stronger than the past. And for the first time, she believed she could face it all. The night air hung heavy over Accra, the stars blinking faintly above as Amma Serwa knelt on the dusty roadside, her arms wrapped tightly around Yabokai. The echoes of the robbers' fleeing footsteps had faded, leaving only the ragged sound of their breathing and the distant hum of crickets. Ya's sobs shook her frame, her tears soaking into Amma's dress, and Amma held her closer, her own heart pounding with a mix of relief and something softer, something like hope reborn. The knife lay discarded in the dirt beside them, its glint dulled by the streetlight, a silent witness to the chaos they'd just survived. Ya pulled back, her face streaked with tears, her eyes wide and searching. "Amma," she whispered, her voice raw, "why did you do it? After everything I said, everything I did, you could have let him take me." Amma's throat tightened, a wave of warmth flooding her chest as she met Ya's gaze. She brushed a stray tear from Ya's cheek, her fingers trembling but gentle. "Because you're human? Yeah," she said softly, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within her. "I couldn't stand by and watch you hurt. Not then, not now. That's not who I am." Ya's lips quivered, a fresh sob breaking free as she buried her face in her hands. "I don't deserve this," she mumbled, her words muffled. "I've been awful to you, cruel, spiteful. And you're too good." Amma smiled, a small, radiant curve that lit her face despite the ache in her limbs. "Nobody's too good, yeah? We all stumble. But we can stand up again, together, if you'll let me help you." Ya looked up, her eyes glistening, and for the first time, Amma saw something new in them: vulnerability, gratitude. A crack in the armor she'd worn so long. "Thank you," Ya whispered, her voice barely audible, but it carried a weight that settled deep in Amma's soul. They sat there a moment longer, the night wrapping around them like a blanket, until Amma helped Ya to her feet. "Come on," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "Let's get you home. You've had enough for one night." The walk was slow, their steps unsteady, but Amma felt a lightness she hadn't known in days. The fear that had gripped her, the dread of Ya's hatred, the weight of her new role, melted away, replaced by a quiet joy that hummed in her chest. She'd saved Ya, not just from the robber, but from the bitterness that had chained her. And in that act, she'd saved a piece of herself too. The next morning, Amma arrived at Sisi's joint with the sun barely cresting the horizon, its golden rays painting the restaurant's glass windows in hues of amber and pink. Her blue manager's uniform felt less foreign now, the fabric settling against her skin like a second chance. She stepped inside, the familiar scent of frying chicken and jollof rice greeting her. And for the first time, she felt like she belonged, not as a worker scrambling to please, but as someone with a purpose. The crew bustled around her, their chatter lively, their smiles warm as she moved through the kitchen, checking supplies and offering quiet words of encouragement. "Good job with the stew, Kwame," she said to a young cook, his grin widening at her praise. "Keep the counter clean. Ajoa, you're doing great," she told a girl wiping down the surfaces. Her shy nod filling Amma with a glow she couldn't name. Then she saw Ya. She stood behind the counter, her crew uniform crisp, her movements slow but deliberate as she served a customer. Their eyes met, and Ya froze, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. Amma's heart skipped, the memory of last night flashing vivid and raw, the knife, the screams, the tears. But she smiled, a soft, welcoming curve, and walked over. "Morning, Ya," she said, her voice bright. "How are you feeling?" Ya's hands faltered on the tray she held, her gaze dropping. I'm okay," she muttered, then looked up, her voice trembling. "Amma, about last night, I don't know how to thank you. I was wrong about everything." Amma's chest swelled, a rush of happiness bubbling up as she reached out, touching Ya's arm. "You don't have to thank me," she said, her tone warm. "Let's just start fresh, eh? We're here together now." Ya nodded, a tentative smile breaking through her guarded expression, and Amma felt it, a bond forming, fragile but real, like the first rays of dawn after a long night. They worked side by side that day, the tension between them dissolving into something lighter, something new. Ya's sharp edges softened, her voice gentler as she took orders, and Amma's heart soared with every small step they took together. Weeks passed and the change grew roots. Ya sought Amma out one afternoon, her steps hesitant as she approached the tiny office where Amma reviewed inventory lists. "Can we talk?" Ya asked, her voice low, her hands twisting nervously. Amma set her pen down, her smile instant and genuine. "Of course, Ya. Sit." Ya perched on the edge of the chair, her eyes darting to the floor before meeting Amma's. "I've been thinking," she began, her words halting, "about everything, how I treated you, how I lost myself in anger. I was wrong, Amma. So wrong. And I'm sorry, not just for last night, but for all of it." Amma's breath caught, tears prickling her eyes as she leaned forward. "Yeah," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I forgave you long ago. You made me stronger, you know? If you hadn't fired me, I wouldn't be here now. So thank you, too." Ya's eyes widened, then softened, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You're too much," she whispered, a laugh breaking through her tears. She reached for Amma's hand, squeezing it tight, and Amma squeezed back, a wave of joy crashing over her. They weren't just co-workers anymore. They were friends, bound by a past they'd overcome and a future they'd build together. One evening, Amma invited Ya to the two-story house in Accra, her heart fluttering with excitement as she prepared to share her new life. Iyasai and Saya bustled in the kitchen, the aroma of groundnut stew and fufu filling the air, her hands swift despite her age. When Ya arrived, her knock hesitant, Amma flung the door open, her smile wide and unguarded. "Welcome, Ya," she said, pulling her inside. "Come meet Nana properly." Ya stepped in, her eyes darting around the spacious room, the polished wooden floor, the soft chairs, the flowers in a vase on the table. "This place. It's beautiful," she murmured, her voice awed. Si emerged, her headscarf bright against her gray hair, her gaze narrowing as she sized Ya up. "So," she said, hands on her hips, "you're the Ya who fired my Amma, eh? You've got some nerve showing your face here." Ya flinched, her hands rising defensively. "Mame, I'm sorry. I was wrong, so wrong. Amma's forgiven me, and I'm trying to change." Si's eyebrow arched, her lips pursing, but Amma laughed, stepping between them. "Nana, she's my friend now. No fighting, eh?" Si huffed, then broke into a grin, her hands dropping. Fine. But yeah, if you ever hurt my girl again, I'll pull every hair from your head. Mark my words." Ya laughed, a nervous but genuine sound, and Amma joined in, the room filling with a warmth that wrapped around them like a hug. They sat together that night, sharing stew and stories, Iyasai's sharp withdrawing smiles from Ya, who slowly relaxed into the fold. Amma watched, her heart so full it ached, a happiness she hadn't dared dream of blooming within her. Months later, Teta Lardy visited the branch, his presence a quiet command as he observed the bustling kitchen. Amma greeted him with a confident smile, her blue uniform now a badge of pride. "Sir, good to see you," she said, her voice steady. He nodded, his eyes sweeping the room before settling on her and Ya, working side by side with an ease that hadn't been there before. This place feels different, he said, his tone approving. Lighter, happier. You've done well, Amma. Her cheeks warmed, a glow spreading through her. Thank you, sir, it's the team, they're amazing. Especially Ya. Ya glanced up, her hands pausing on a tray. Me? She said, a shy smile tugging at her lips. Amma's the one who's changed everything. I've learned so much from her. Tedda's smile widened, a rare softness in his stern face. I'm proud of you both. Yeah, how about a manager's role again? Another branch, perhaps? Ya hesitated, then shook her head, her grin playful. Not yet, sir, I'm happy here, calling Amma madam. It's more fun this way. Amma laughed, the sound bright and free, and Tedda joined in, the room alive with their shared joy. As he left, Amma caught Ya's eye, and they shared a look, a silent promise of friendship, of growth, of a bond forged in fire and grace. Years passed, and Amma's life blossomed. With Tedda's support, she enrolled in a business course. Her nights filled with books and dreams she'd once thought impossible. She graduated under a sky of applause, ESI and Ya cheering loudest, their pride a melody in her heart. The Accra branch thrived under her care, its tables always full, its crew a family she'd built from the ashes of her past. One evening, as she sat with ESI and Ya on the porch of their home, the sun dipping low over Accra, Amma felt a peace so deep it brought tears to her eyes. The garden bloomed before them, the air sweet with hibiscus, and laughter spilled from their lips as ESI recounted a tale from her youth. Nana, Ya, Amma said, her voice soft. This is happiness. I never thought I'd find it, but here it is. SI reached for her hand, her grip firm and loving. You made it, child. With your heart, your strength. The years slipped by like soft waves on the shores of Accra, each one leaving behind a ripple of change that Amma Surwa could hardly believe. The two-story house, once a marvel of newness, had settled into a comforting familiarity, its white walls now adorned with creeping vines, its garden a riot of color tended by ESI and Saya's steady hands. The porch where Amma, ESI, and Yabokai often sat had become a sacred space, weathered by laughter and the quiet hum of evening stories. On this particular night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of lavender and gold, Amma leaned against the railing, her heart brimming with a joy so deep it felt like a song. She was older now, her cornrows streaked with silver, her once youthful hands marked by the lines of time and labor, but her eyes, those deep brown pools, still sparkled with the same quiet strength, the same unyielding hope that had carried her from Kumasi's dusty streets to this life she'd built. The Accra branch of Sisi's joint thrived under her care, a beacon of warmth and good food, its tables filled with families and friends who'd come to know her name. And beside her, always, were ESI and Ya, her anchors, her family, forged not by blood but by something stronger. SI emerged from the house, a tray of chin-chin in her hands, her steps slower now but her spirit as fierce as ever. Amma, stop staring at the sky like a dreamer, she teased, setting the tray on the table. Come eat. These won't last long once Ya gets here. Amma laughed, a sound that danced on the breeze, and joined her grandmother. Nana, you spoil us too much, she said, popping a piece of the crunchy snack into her mouth. The sweetness melted on her tongue, a taste of home that never failed to lift her spirits. SI's eyes crinkled with mischief. Spoil you? Ha, I'm keeping you humble, child. Can't let that manager's head get too big. Before Amma could retort, Ya's voice rang out from the gate. I heard that, Mame, she called, striding up the path with a grin. Her crew uniform swapped for a flowing dress that swayed with her steps. She carried a basket of mangoes, their golden skins glowing in the fading light. Thought I'd bring something sweet to match Nana's chin-chin. Amma rose, pulling Ya into a quick hug, the warmth of their friendship a steady pulse between them. You're late, she said, her tone playful. The sun's almost gone. Ya chuckled, setting the basket down. Blame the customers. Everyone wanted extra jollof today. Your branch is too good, Amma. They settled onto the porch, the three of them a tableau of love and laughter, sharing mangoes and chin-chin as the stars began to wink above. Amma watched them, ASI's wrinkled hands peeling fruit, Yas sharp with sparking giggles, and felt a swell of gratitude so intense it brought tears to her eyes. This was her life now, a tapestry woven from hardship and kindness, each thread a testament to the heart she'd refused to let harden. As the night deepened, a group of children from the neighborhood gathered near the gate, their voices a chorus of excitement. Amma smiled, recognizing the little faces, Kwesi, Adwoa, little Na, who often came to hear her stories.
Madam Amma.
Kwesi called, his gap-toothed grin wide. Tell us about the beggar again. Ya raised an eyebrow, smirking. The beggar story? You're turning into a griot, Amma. Amma laughed, waving the children closer. Come, sit with us. They scrambled onto the porch, their small bodies crowding around her, their eyes bright with anticipation. Yesai and Yas settled back, their smiles soft, as Amma began. Once in Kumasi, she said, her voice low and melodic, I was just a girl like you, poor, working hard at Cece's joint. One day, I saw an old man outside, hungry and alone. He wore rags, and his hands shook, but I couldn't look away. So I gave him my last Sadie's worth of jollof rice. The children leaned in, their breaths held, and Amma's heart fluttered with the memory. That man, he wasn't just a beggar, she continued, her voice rising with wonder. He was Mr. Teta Lardy, the owner of every Cece's joint. He'd disguised himself to test us, to see who had a heart. And because I fed him, he gave me this life, this house, this job, this happiness. Adwoa's eyes widened, her small hand tugging at Amma's sleeve. So kindness made you rich? She asked, her voice awed. Amma's smile softened, her hand resting on the girl's head. Not rich in money, Adwoa, rich in love, in purpose. Kindness doesn't always bring you gold, but it brings you something better. It brought me Nana, Ya, and all of you. The children murmured, their faces glowing with the magic of her words, and Amma felt a tear slip down her cheek. She looked at Esi, whose eyes glistened with pride, and Ya, whose grin held a quiet reverence. This was her legacy, not the branch she managed, not the house she owned, but the story she'd lived, the heart she'd shared. Later, as the children scampered off into the night, their laughter echoing down the street, Ya turned to Amma, her voice low. You're amazing, you know that? The way you tell it, it's like you're giving them a piece of your soul. Amma's chest tightened, a flood of happiness washing over her. They deserve it, yeah. If they learn anything from me, I hope it's that goodness matters, that it lasts. Esi reached for her hand, her grip firm despite the years. You've done more than that, child. You've shown the world what a gentle heart can do. I'm so proud, Amma. So proud. Amma's tears fell freely now, her voice trembling as she squeezed Esi's hand. Nana, you gave me that heart. You and Ya, you're my everything. Ya leaned in, wrapping an arm around Amma's shoulders, her own eyes misty. And you're ours, Madam Amma. Don't ever forget it. They sat there, the three of them bound by a love that time couldn't erode, the night stretching out soft and endless. Amma looked out at the garden, the flowers swaying in the breeze, and thought of Teta Lardy, how a single act of kindness had sparked this life. She thought of the old mattress in Kumasi, the days of hunger and toil, the moments she'd nearly broken. And she thought of now of the laughter, the warmth, the peace that filled her every breath. I started with nothing, she whispered, more to herself than to them. But I've ended with everything. Esi's hand tightened, Yas' arm steadied her, and Amma closed her eyes, letting the happiness settle deep in her bones. She'd built a legacy, not of wealth or power, but of a heart that gave without counting the cost. And as the crickets sang their nightly hymn, she knew it would live on, in the children's stories, in Yas' friendship, in Esi's unwavering love. The stars above shone brighter, a constellation of her journey, and Amma smiled through her tears. This was her gift to the world, a gentle heart that had turned ashes into light, a life that proved kindness could endure. And in that truth, she found a happiness so pure, so complete, it would carry her forever. Ya nodded, her smile radiant. And with you, Amma, you showed me what it means to live right. Amma leaned back, the evening breeze cool against her skin, and closed her eyes. She thought of the old man, Teta, eating her jollof rice, of Yas' tears in the dark, of Isai's unwavering faith. Every step, every tear, had led her here, to a life rich with love, purpose, and joy. She'd started with nothing but a kind heart, and now, she had everything. As the stars emerged above, Amma whispered a silent thank you to God, to fate, to the goodness that had carried her through. The world was hers now, not because she'd taken it, but because she'd given it all she had. And in that giving, she'd found her truest happiness.